Ashanna Solaris is a practitioner, trainer, and co-founder of Clarity Breathwork. Ashanna brings a wealth of experience and training with 30 plus years in the healing arts, integrating breathwork, light body, Reiki, and energy healing, somatic experiencing, ritual, dance, and movement. Ashanna has a deep passion to inspire others to live their fullest potential and give their greatest offering. Yay. Well, I'm glad to have you here. I really couldn't think of anybody better that I would want to come and talk about pillar number 2. So pillar number 2 is emotional wisdom. And this is about our ability to really feel and embrace and honor our emotions, and allow ourselves to have them flow through us and express them, but not to be controlled by them and moved around by them, and not to have our unconscious patterns be, in charge of our lives. And this is such a key thing that I got from breathwork and working with you, was how to do that. I mean, I think a lot of people think that's a good idea.
Right. They don't know how, they don't have a clue.
Right. But like, what do you actually, how do you actually do that?
And it led me to this path where I was taken, on the path of the healer. And one of the most significant moments of that Maggie, you've probably heard me talk about, is when I wanted to do the rebirthing ceremony on spring equinox. And I think I was 20 years old at the time. And I got stuck in a cave back in the creek of Missouri. And I got completely stuck spelunking. And while I was stuck in the cave, I remembered my birth experience when I actually incarnated into this body, and how traumatic it was, and how afraid I was, and how much I thought I didn't want to be born. And that experience completely shifted my life. And I thought, I've got to understand why I'm here, what my birth has to do with it. And so when I started exploring birth, I did get out of the cave. It did open up and expand. And I did have a major rebirthing experience from Mother Nature. It was really an archetypal journey of being reborn by Mother Earth. And when I had some of my first sessions, I realized all the emotions that I was avoiding by going to my light body: my anger, my frustration, despair, sadness, grief. I didn't know how to feel all of that. Like you and so many of us, we were not taught that it was okay to have our emotions. And so we learned how to suppress them. We learned how to create an imposter identity. And at some point in our lives, we are often forced to start to feel and to face those emotions, and to have a tool like Clarity Breathwork. I mean, it saved my life to feel what we feel and go through it in a safe, sacred way. Then I discovered that feeling is healing, and that only through facing my emotions and these deep places inside could I really liberate myself to actually be fully present to that greater mission of why I'm here.
For me, when I came to breath work, it just opened up a whole other, I don't even know what to call it. It was like a horizon of possibility, both in terms of what I could understand about myself, but also for what became possible for me. Tell us a little bit, like, what is Clarity Breathwork, and what are some of the benefits that we get from this practice? Why this as opposed to something else?
Right. And I just want to add on to what you just said, that we are learning more. There was the book of emotional intelligence released a few years back, and Gabor Mate's The Wisdom of Trauma, which touched thousands of lives recently. So there is a lot more permission to feel what we feel and to bring love and healing to these places. And for me, that's what Clarity Breathwork has really evolved to be. It's a gentle, safe, we call it a nurturing feminine approach to healing and embodiment. And as we breathe in a very gentle, circular manner, without forcing or pushing or controlling, but actually surrendering to the breath of life. And the breath of life, I mean, it continues to teach me. It's my master teacher. The breath of life that connects all of us, that allows us to be alive and awake in a body, and has so much healing medicine. It's the master medicine, the breath. We know about it from thousands of years back in India's pranayama. And today it's a very accessible tool to both heal our emotional bodies and allow the release of held back tension and pain and wounding. It also, which is so important, it connects us back to our true nature, which is the infinite. It connects us back to the infinite, to the cosmos, to the earth, to each other, so that we have a broader perspective that can allow our healing to happen within. If that makes sense. Because if we just thought we're all alone with this pain and this trauma, and if I feel it, I will get pulled into a river of grief and pain so deep, I'll never come out of it, people won't start. But if we realize that we are connected to something so much greater that we can access through the simple practice of breathing, it gives us the container of love, of safety, of holding, to do the work we came here to do, not only for ourselves, I believe, but for our ancestral lineage. What we are feeling is a collective body that has been passed down to us. And I believe, like I think you do, that we are the light bearers of our lineage, that we came here specifically to do this healing so that the incredible gifts that we have can be given to this world that is in dire need of us right now. Mm-hmm. If we're locked up in our emotional pain, we won't be able to do it. Mm-hmm. If we unlock ourselves and free ourselves, we won't be able to not do it. It's absolutely important to create safe containers, and that's what we do in Clarity Breathwork. We create a very safe and sacred container, and we call in a lot of support. It's very spiritual work. Although it includes all traditions, but we are calling in the support beyond ourselves to help us lay down these burdens that we took on, and lay down this pain and this anger that we've been carrying, so that we can, become really activated and on purpose to shine our light. And our purpose and our message, of course, comes directly out of whatever it is we experienced. So whatever we went through in what we call our holy curriculum, whatever we went through, whatever our traumas were, they also are designed exquisitely. Even though it may not feel that way, even though we could certainly say that that is not just. From a broader perspective, when we unlock, and that's what I love about trauma, is that when we unlock trauma, the other side of trauma is tremendous awakening. And greater awareness.
Tell us a little bit more about birth inside of breath work. I mean, and yes, breath, but but about birth, because I know that Clarity Breathwork grew out of rebirthing, and that you and Dana have continued to refine it and develop it over decades now. But birth is still a kind of a core experience that for, many people, I don't know if I want to say all, but many people, has trauma wrapped up in it. Certainly. I mean, the changing of dimensions and all of that. But tell us a little bit more about that. So, because there may be some people who've never really thought a lot about their birth or why that's important.
Right. Well, I think it's absolutely important, having worked with, thousands of people over the last 30 years and seeing that any of the imprinting around our birth experience, whether were we wanted, were we chosen? Did they want a boy instead of a girl? Was our mother hospitalized? And this really, can take us through a deep rabbit hole of what happened to birthing practices and how they became hospitalized and medicated. And I mean, in the time of our mothers, some of them were completely drugged. My mother was completely drugged. We were forceps delivery. Our fathers were not allowed in the rooms. And you read in the woman's room, one of those great feminist books that you and I both read in women's studies. I mean, a woman was actually strapped down. Her arms were strapped down. Her legs were strapped down. She was not able to push, to be in her fierce feminine power, to do something that's biologically designed for her to do. And instead, that was often taken away from our mothers and taken away for us. So if many of us came into the world drugged, disconnected, and taken away from our mothers, instead of being able to lay on her left breast and bond with the heartbeat, we're dealing with a society of people that believe that we are disconnected, that are unable to bond with our mother, including our Mother Earth, including our intimate relationships. And so we see all these layers of interference to our natural capacity to bond. We also see, and why breath is so important, is we see the automatic cutting of the umbilical cord right at birth. And we see in other cultures, there's the lotus birth, where they leave the cord intact for 24 hours until it falls off by itself. We see this cutting right away as an interference in the breathing pattern, because the infant will gasp for breath. And it can be a breath of terror, because the greatest mammalian terror is to not be able to breathe. So we see a lot of us have been holding our breath since we were born, constricting our life force energy, perhaps a sense that we can't trust life, that we're not supposed to be here, that we landed on the wrong planet, all kinds of things. And so what I see is that some of us have never fully been born. We have a body, we've been going through a life, but we are not all the way here. And what the Clarity Breathwork does is we reach back through that trajectory all the way to birth and everything that came after birth, our childhood conditioning, our relationships. But if we can get, the further back we can go, the bigger the change we can make. So if we can go back and attend to that little precious being that is a miracle, that came into life, and welcome them, it can change everything in a person's life. Because the organism will wait until danger has passed to fully come online. And many of us are still living with the danger hasn't passed yet. I can't come fully into my life. And yet, how does it feel to not be fully in our lives? And how will it feel at the moment of our departure if we realize that we never fully came here? We never fully received the gift of life. And so to breathe is to receive the gift of life and to come alive and to become reconnected to ourselves, to our community, and to our greater purpose in this world of why we are here. And it can unlock our gifts, which is now it's getting exciting. Now it could really be exciting. So it's worth the effort. It's worth the temporary, pain of facing these places. So that we can come fully alive and be here. Mm-hmm. And that's what the earth is asking us to do right now. There's no doubt about it. We are asked, especially as women, to show up now and to give our gifts. And that might trigger birth material, the fear of showing up, the fear of coming out and being seen.